The total disaster of late summer 2023 is finally over. Switch to Geekhouse Dark Mode.
Acknowledged. Geekhouse Dark Mode activated.
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
The rest of the summer was a total disaster. The weather was a total disaster. And as a result, this house is a total disaster. So what you're seeing right here is the beginning of me finally starting to dig out of the mess the El Nino Summer wrought upon the Geekhouse. Welcome back to the Geekhouse. I wish it were in better shape. So, while I was running around, I left a tube of super glue on the table and it leaked. And it turned into, well, plasticky dried super glue. Picked up some goof-off super glue remover. I've been trying to get this to come off, but it's not dissolving. Might have to just scrape it off or grind it off or something like that. What can I say? This summer's been a total disaster. Tonight is the last night of summer humidity. After this, we shift very squarely into fall. We have the remains of a tropical storm coming through, causing all the warmer weather, and this is going to be it. The tropics are quiet after all of this. So, as long and as tiring of a summer as it has been, maybe we'll get some better weather and we can continue on with what I wanted to do before this total disaster of a summer began. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Let's do something about this Amazon Prime-ish looking stuff that's been sitting for weeks now while all this has gone on. So I picked up a compressed air thing to stop having to buy air cans, and I picked up a smaller monitor shelf to put on top of the project area monitor. The router can then go on top of the project area, can go on top of the monitor, as well as the fiber hub for if I upgrade to fiber internet. Because with fiber internet with the faster speeds and all the problems that power line gear's been causing, I want the internet to come in over here and then go through power line to the bedroom where I don't need as much speed instead of the other way around. All the fastest stuff will be out here for all that lovely synchronous fiber speed. So we'll have some fun with that. We'll have some fun with that and figure out what works with what and stuff along those lines. But it's been a long, hot summer and very, very tiring. I'm lucky if I can even think straight. And got to the point where weekends were basically for recovering from all the running around I was doing during the week. So I look forward to things changing, even if the weather changes with it. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. You know that old song, Summertime Blues, about working all summer just to try to earn $1? That basically was how things went. Alright, one step at a time. Let's move on from all this crap. Alright, compressed air duster. Got out of the box here. Look at this. Liam Lee, not to be confused with Leon Lee, the case company. And they say that this thing should cost $200. I assure you I did not pay anywhere close to $200 for this. It was more like $30 or so. But what is this? It's like a hairdryer, just goes with no heat. That's nice. Awfully nice. How do you control the speed on this thing? Oh! Well, that's pretty simple. Now, what are all these attachments? I'm guessing... Well, now that we've just blown out all the headphone people's ears, why do I do that stupid stuff?
Epic fail.
What does it charge off? Oh, at least it charges off a USB-C, so that's good. And it looks like we just have a bazillion attachments with brushes That's a brush. It's not something the air blows through. Oh, so this is all like dusting tools and stuff. This isn't like... Oh, this is all like dusting tools and stuff. So it really just boils down to these tips right here. Alright, well, let's put it together and see if we can get it to, in some way, resemble a duster can. Okay, so there is a brush that the air blows through. This thing kind of reminds me of a hairdryer in reverse. Supposedly you can put those big nozzles on the back of this thing and use it to vacuum. And use this thing to vacuum, but they don't actually stay on there, so I'm guessing it's just the suction is what keeps them on. I don't know. I don't intend on using this thing to vacuum anything. Why would I want to blow stuff into the back of this where it would get gunked up in the motor and stuff like that? This is an air duster, and that's what I'm going to use it for, is an air duster. Alright, let's let this thing get some charge. It's probably shipped at like 50% or something, the maintenance charge or whatever it is. Heck, I might have been wrecking the battery by running it without cycling it a few times. Let's check out that shelf. Now, this thing's pretty basic, just like the Stanley one I got a couple of years ago. It goes on top of the screen, the leg goes into the back of the screen, then this thing goes on top to have a little surface for your stuff to sit on top of instead of just bare metal. I don't think we'll be able to fit anything besides the router on something this small, though, so what I'll do is, if there's a fiber switch of some sort with the fiber internet, which there probably will be, we'll just stack everything vertically on there and just have everything come in over here. That way everything can run at full speed over spaghetti cables in this area and then go through the wall to the bedroom and other places where, you know, if we throttle the speed, it's not that big of an issue. Considering we're talking about synchronous internet that starts at 500 in both directions, that's the way it's got to be. Well, I remember when the conventional wisdom was that your internet is always slower than your Ethernet. That is no longer the case in today's world. The things that can change in a generation. And here I am thinking that the 2000s weren't significantly different than the 2020s. They are. I just haven't come to grips yet with just how things have quietly changed behind my back while the years have silently gone by. There. Well, I was looking for baby steps of progress, and I guess this counts. Yeah, so we have the switch, which is gigabit, which preserves the speed for any computer or something that's hooked up over here. And then we have the router basically serving as an access point for wireless. Yeah, we get a fiber switch in here, we'll just put it underneath those two and kind of sandwich everything together. But there's a place to put something where the internet comes in here now, so... well, we'll figure out something with that. Or switch to all vertical stuff. Put all the vertical stuff over here and figure everything out from there. We'll sort it all out. There's still the whole power line thing, and I don't mind throttling the speed of the wireless, because this is not the latest wireless either. Well, I was looking for things to do when the summer was over, and now here we are. But unfortunately, things have to take a far more serious turn at this point. This 2010's Monolith has been off for most of the rest of the summer. I've been trying to find a way to still use this computer for something other than a backup in case the main one dies, but it hasn't panned out. And this really represents what has gone wrong with messing around with these project systems since I've been doing this. Is that the silent march of technology has very quietly rendered Delosaurus-era machines that won't move forward to Windows 11 into obsolete status. We're talking about games nowadays that easily use 16 gigs of RAM when you're running it and Discord and whatever stuff. The stuff you game with nowadays, it's no longer about how much RAM the game takes up, it's about how much RAM your game and your background services take up. So the project systems capping at 16 gigs of RAM are now totally disadvantaged versus this thing doing 32, even though it's too old for Windows 11. And I actually upgraded Monolith to 64 gigs of RAM just to fill up all the slots with RAM that is the same make and model, instead of trying to find stuff years down the road like I did last time. I certainly don't need 64 gigs. None of my games even come close to it, so that probably won't be upgraded again for a very, 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 very long time. But it just goes to show the silent aging of technology. And with that in mind, it's time for me to look at some of the console stuff that I have, because as little playtime as the other computers have gotten, the consoles have gotten even less. Sunday, whatever, Sunday. Yeah, so you may have heard at the end of the last clip here, but yeah, some idiot decided to start hammering things outside after sunset last night, so I called it a night, and I figured I'd just pick up with this little mess of controllers here, because, yeah, it's time to start rethinking my involvement in console gaming. PC gaming is established, it's mature, there are remakes that scale up to modern hardware these days. There's all kinds of neat things that PC gaming has that really makes me wonder about console gaming. And at the same time, we're finding out more and more that as these consoles age, there's more and more gotchas popping up in them, like batteries going dead and bricking the console and all kinds of other crap like that. So I'd rather just stick with something I'm familiar with, and most importantly, something I can service if something goes wrong, as opposed to whatever gotchas the console world is going to hoist upon console gamers anytime in whatever amount of years it is before the goofy stuff starts happening that ends up in people's YouTube videos. So I've had an eStarland account for quite some time for the specific purpose of trading in old stuff without any real hassle. The problem with things like eBay and stuff is that eBay and similar platforms for selling stuff these days has really liberal anti-fraud and return policies, so there's an ongoing problem with e-tailing sites. Maybe Facebook Gaming has this problem too, where these guarantees make it easy to scam people out of their stuff by just claiming it was damaged or doing so. There's a lot of crap out there, so I'd rather just eat the trade-in value and work with a business that I've been a fan of for quite some time. eStarland is probably my favorite of the secondhand retailers out there these days. So I figured I'd start small. Let's work with some controllers and see how they handle them, and then work up towards the big ticket items as I want to pare down my consoles. I've been meaning to do this for years, but the pandemic pretty much scrambled everything. It's the sort of thing where I want to send stuff in the run-up to Black Friday, so that way maybe the values will be better than they are during the quieter parts of the year. I mean, you don't want to be trying to get rid of old gaming stuff in January. And I think what I'm going to do to start off with all this is package up some of these old controllers that I'm never going to use. And in doing so, admit that I made quite a bit of mistakes in the 2010s in the process. Ugh, really now? What a spaghetti mess of wires. So, I'm a PC gamer. I heard in the 2000s about people playing PC games with Xbox 360 controllers, but I was a laggard in doing so myself, as I didn't know about direct input versus X input, and I was playing mostly keyboard mouse games like World of Warcraft and MMOs and stuff, so controller games, not so much. Maybe like Test Drive Unlimited or something. So, yeah, I was a little bit slow on the draw with that kind of thing. So, this is really a lesson in stupidity with how I was as a PC gamer. But PC gaming used to be more of its own ecosystem, as opposed to nowadays where there's a lot more crossover with consoles. Focus! Come on! I think I have to clean the lens off. This camera sat around for a while. Either that or it can't handle a 360 controller in this lighting. There we go. So the thing is, I have two 360 controllers, as I'm not going to use wireless controllers or play with Bluetooth. I want wired. I'm never too far from the computer. And so I wound up thinking I was smart for buying these 360 controllers right as the Xbox One was coming out. I bought a pair of wired 360 controllers right as the Xbox One was coming out, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get these on clearance, cheap controllers, don't have to mess with wireless. Then I found out what improvements Microsoft made, including to the third-party controllers they were licensing for the Xbox One. Yeah, from the 360, so these are mint. I've barely even used them. There's a retro controller out nowadays. That I should probably put this thing in auto mode with how terrible it's being. Look at that, it's fuzzing up like it's high on drugs.
Epic fail.
Alright, we're in full auto mode, and I use the blower brush on this thing. to clean off the camera. I swear, this thing reminds me of a blow dryer. Haven't I said that enough? Either way, yeah, so I thought I was being smart with these 360 controllers, getting them on clearance, without knowing about the enhancements going from 360 to Xbox One, like rumble, like bigger triggers with rumble motors in them that even the third-party controllers were doing. So I used these barely at all, and then I wound up playing the crew in my controller games on these boomerangs. Power A controllers, the first revision of the X-Bone controllers. And then the second revision was even better. I mean, this is legit. I'm tempted to keep one of these around as a wired controller, but I don't know. I'm tempted to keep one of these around as a wired controller in case I get sick of Bluetooth or I need some kind of emergency backup or something. The truth is, I've got something nowadays that's even better than these. Real controllers. Just use the plug-in cable if I really need to, for running them. But I basically take, whether it's the old Xbox One from last decade or current Xbox Series controllers, I basically buy a Samurai kit for them, which is what they're called on Amazon. Rubber sheath type coating type thing for holding the controller and making it more comfortable and not feeling so much like a cheap piece of plastic. And then the stick covers for these are the Samurai stick colors that make them feel like PlayStation controller joysticks, as opposed to these things that you constantly feel them digging into your thumb and stuff, and you slide around anyways because the inside is plastic. So yeah, I mean, these are cool and all, but it's almost like, why? Just because the Xbox 360 one was concave doesn't necessarily mean they always have to be concave. So this is kind of like a hybrid. It feels like a hybrid between the Wiimotes, which I always had in jackets, PlayStation controllers with what I did to the thumbsticks, and of course it's an Xbox controller. So this is kind of my setup of choice these days, no matter what. Big, hefty, feels good in the hand, certainly better than any of these. So now that this is a thing, I just can't for the life of me imagine myself going back to this, or even this. This just feels light and cheap. Like, I have a controller just to have a controller, which was my original plan with the 360 controllers, which keep bugging out the camera for whatever reason. Focus! Maybe I should tap the screen and see if it'll do it. No, it's on auto now, and it's still not doing it right. Either way, this thing hates 360 controllers. No! Focus! Oh, I turned off the auto by turn on auto. Stop breaking the camera.
Epic fail.
So as much as I've tried to like 360 controllers even from a retro perspective, but it just doesn't play out. It just doesn't pan out these days. Alright, stop screwing up the focus on the darn camera. And things are getting even more cluttered around here. Here's the big-ass roll of bubble wrap that I've had for a couple of years, as I've been meaning to get rid of some of this stuff. I just never got around to it, or I waited until after Black Friday, and I was like, well, let's try again next year. But yeah, I've tried to in any way get nostalgic about the Xbox 360, especially since these controllers are barely used, and they're mint. Basically, they've spent most of their time sitting around. But the big issue here is that going back to this, I don't have fond memories of the 360. The 360 to me was the Red Ring console. It's the one where Microsoft went nuts trying to keep the darn things working. By the time they fixed the Xbox 360, it was about time for the X-Bone to come out anyways, and the rest is history. So there's no nostalgia for me on these. There's no nothing. And apparently there's other people that agree with me on this, because the resale value of 360 controllers has really dropped. You're talking like $10, $15 a controller in the right place. And that's one of the reasons why eStarland only offers up to 5 per controller these days. There's retro modernized controllers from Hyperkin these days. But if you want the original Xbox 360 controllers for the legitimate experience of playing that era's games, that's probably one of the hidden bargains in the gaming world these days. Much like the 360 itself. I mean, you're getting a 720-30 console for like, what, $100 on Facebook Marketplace? Unless you want to pay through the roof for one of those official refurbished blah blah blahs these days and set yourself up for something like a DK Oldies, dare I mention it, situation. But it's time to say goodbye to all this stuff, because what it means to be an Xbox gamer nowadays, if I'm trying to emulate the Xbox experience on PC. What it means to be an Xbox gamer these days is that you're probably going to use the same controller for multiple generations of games and switch to something else if you go retro enough. It's just, the 360 controller to me nowadays feels like a rough draft. Like, this was the rough draft, and then Microsoft has iterated on it more and more over the years with the Xbone and Series controllers of today. Plus, why should I depend on old hardware where, if I need a new controller, I just go to Walmart and pick one up? And I'm a PC gamer, so I use regular controllers, and I'm just used to it for all the controller games. It's just the way it is. Time marches on, and I don't really have that much nostalgia for the 360 era to keep the old controllers around. Wow, I seriously thought I could make some progress on this weekend. I didn't know what I was getting into, so everything's bubble wrapped up and it's ready to go out, but I gotta call eStarland because they have so many listings for so many controllers for all the consoles. It's just a mess trying to find the right one to click the trade-in button on. They have like every color of every brand, first and third party, and it looks like they deactivated the listing because they have no stock on the Microsoft first-party 360 controllers. So, but I actually have two in mint condition, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to get some answers from them before I proceed with this. I thought it would be simple. They let you do 70% of your trade-in value as cash. So, should be relatively simple, but I guess there's more to the story. Oh well, to be continued. This just keeps getting wackier and wackier. Not only is it November, it's Thanksgiving! Happy Thanksgiving!
Epic fail.
And there! Everything's on its way to eStarland. I actually got to do something over all these months. What a sad excuse for an autumn. Maybe next time I'll be able to do something without flipping the calendar so many times. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.